Feeding a baby, it's one of the most universal journeys a new parent can possibly go on. But here's the thing. While the experience is something so many people share, the support they get is, well, it's all over the place. It's often this tangled, complicated web, not some clear, helpful path. Today, we're going to try and untangle that web.
And let's just start with an emotion that is way, way too common. This quote from our source material, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? This deep feeling of being unprepared and ineffectively supported. And this isn't just a small thing. This can spiral into guilt and shame and a whole lot of anxiety. It's really the core issue we're going to explore today.
So, to make sense of all this, we're going to look at it in layers, kind of like those Russian nesting dolls. We'll start with the big picture, the parent journey, then go right to the very center, the inner world. From there, we'll move out to the power of peers, talk about navigating professional help, zoom way out to society's systems, and then, finally, figure out what it takes to build a real ecosystem of care.
All right, so let's get into it. The most important thing to remember here is that feeding support isn't just one thing. It's a whole series of interconnected layers that all affect each other. This right here, this is the roadmap for our whole discussion. See? At the very core, you've got the parent's own headspace, their inner world. The next ring out, that's their informal circle, friends and family. Then you have the more formal support from doctors and nurses. And that biggest, widest circle, well, that's the society we all live in.
Okay, so let's start at the absolute center of it all, the parent's own internal state. Because honestly, before anyone gives any advice or any policy gets written, this is where the feeding journey really, truly begins. So, support really does start from the inside out. It's about a parent's confidence, right? Their belief that they can actually do this. It's about dealing with all the other stuff like stress and anxiety. The research shows that good lactation support can literally lower a parent's anxiety. And that feeling of being in control and emotionally validated, it's absolutely critical. And this is the bottom line. How support is given matters just as much, if not more, than what support is given. It is never just about the practical tips. Every single conversation, every interaction has the power to either build a parent up and make them feel seen and capable, or tear them down, leaving them with feelings of guilt and humiliation. All right, so let's move out to that next circle. We're expanding from the individual to their immediate community. This is that informal, but man, is it a powerful network of family, friends, and other parents. And this inner circle, it's not just one big group of people. Nope. It's made up of all these different, super important players, and each one brings something unique to the table. You've got grandmothers offering that holistic wisdom, partners who are getting more and more knowledgeable, peer groups that build confidence, and of course, online communities that are there 24/7. Let's dig into that a little. Our source material points out that grandmothers often give this amazing all-around support, everything from food to mental health. The involvement of fathers and partners is so key, but sometimes old-fashioned gender norms get in the way. Then you have peer supporters, who are just brilliant at building trust and filling in the gaps that the formal healthcare system sometimes leaves. And online groups, they're an absolute lifeline for so many, offering instant access and empowerment. Okay, let's expand out one more time to that first layer of formal support. This is the world of the healthcare system. We're talking doctors, midwives, nurses, lactation consultants, all the people professionally trained to guide new parents. And this slide right here highlights such a critical difference. On one side, you have the didactic approach. Basically, it's one-way traffic. The professional talks, you listen. And frankly, it can feel kind of judgmental. But on the other side, you've got the dialogue-oriented approach. This is a real conversation. It's respectful, it's empowering, and it treats the parent like the key decision-maker they are. The difference this makes for a parent's confidence is just huge. The reality, though, is that there's often this pretty big gap between what parents need and what they actually get. The sources point to some real skill and knowledge gaps among healthcare staff. Parents are desperate for clear, consistent advice. But when things get tough, that support can just vanish. And we see that marginalized groups in particular often get the worst of it, receiving poor or even disrespectful support. So let's pull the camera way, way back to that final biggest circle. This is the big picture, right? The societal structures, the laws, the cultural attitudes that create the whole environment that families are trying to survive and thrive in. So at this huge macro level, there are really three big levers you can pull. First, what happens at work? The policies, the facilities. Second, government programs and legal protections, like paid leave. And third, you have this constant battle between the powerful influence of formula marketing and the regulations that are supposed to protect infant health.
So what does a truly supportive environment actually need? Well, it needs big things, like legal reforms for paid parental leave. It needs supportive workplaces, with things like private spaces and flexible schedules. It means we have to educate managers on what their employees' rights are. And it means we need to have real protection from commercial marketing that can so easily undermine a parent's confidence. Okay, so we've journeyed all the way from the parent's inner world through their friends and family, past the healthcare system, and out to society as a whole. So, how do we put all of these pieces together? How do we weave these separate threads into a safety net that actually works, a real ecosystem of care? This number is pretty wild. Think about how critical this web of support is. And yet, our sources found that only 9% of media coverage about infant feeding even mentions these support systems. There's this massive disconnect between what parents are actually going through and what the public conversation is even about. A true support system, when it's working right, has some really clear hallmarks. It needs coordination, so parents aren't getting mixed messages, integration, so that online tools and face-to-face care actually work together, high-quality training for everybody involved, consistent funding so these programs don't just disappear, and real empowerment so communities have the tools to take care of their own people. And that really brings us to our final thought. We've seen how every single one of these layers is connected, from a parent's own private confidence all the way up to national parental leave laws. So we want to leave you with this question. In this incredibly complex, interwoven web of support, what do you think is the single most important link in the entire chain?